This is how I failed to make my Collin the Caterpillar Halloween cake. I had some silicone moulds which I had bought at Lakeland, although because they were rather floppy I did have to support the feet mould on a thin mat. To fill these I had some white chocolate as well as some food dye, and instructions online said that I would need food dye that had no water in it, but I found this very difficult to find, so I decided that I would just risk it. I started by breaking the chocolate up into small pieces and then melting it in the microwave in short, sharp bursts to ensure that it didn't burn. When it was melted, I added the food dye and mixed vigorously to ensure that it was well mixed through. Having seen instructions online that said that you had to have special food dye to do this, I personally felt that for my own use, food dye from the shops did the job. I then repeated the process with blue food dye for the feet. For the cake, I used a Delia recipe, and she recommends putting the oven to 180 degrees, but given the problems I had, a friend has recommended that it should have been 160 degrees. I then greased and lined a fairly large baking tin. For the cake, I used 6 large eggs, 150 grams of caster sugar, and 50 grams of cocoa powder. Start by separating the eggs. Then whisk the egg whites to soft peaks. Next, whisk the egg yolks. Add the sugar and whisk again until slightly thickened. Then add the cocoa powder and mix in well with a spoon. Then slowly fold in the egg whites a bit at a time. Pour the mixture into the tin and put it in the oven for about 20 minutes. Because my oven was too hot, I took my mixture out at about 15 minutes and it was already burnt, so you might want to take your cake mixture out earlier or just have it at that lower temperature of around 160 degrees. Next, I made buttercream icing to my own recipe, which is icing sugar, butter and cocoa powder. And again, I think I need to look this up and do it better because it ended up either being too melted when it was out on the countertop or being too frozen when it was in the fridge. Next I melted some dark chocolate to pour over the cake and hopefully hide any cracks. As it turned out, the cracks were too big to hide, but the idea was there. So the next step was to assemble the cake. I had a lot of trouble getting the cake out of the tin, which realistically was the first sign that there were problems. I would think that if I had cooked the cake at a lower temperature, it would have been able to turn the way I needed it to. But as it was too firm and it just cracked far too much. At this point, I decided to just make the best of a bad job and go for it. I hope to retry this recipe at Christmas and hopefully next time I'll get it right.